On the latest episode of the PCT podcast, we are joined by Emma Jones, presenter with Leeds United TV and BBC Radio 5 live host. Emma speaks to us about chasing a career in journalism, the importance of sacrifice and much more. Don't forget to hit subscribe to keep up to date with our content. Enjoy. So today on the PCT podcast, we have a guest who has got vast experience within the media, within football and other industries. So it's with a great pleasure to introduce you today, Emma Jones.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hi Emma, how are you?
I'm good, cheers. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, we've scheduled this call during the lockdown of COVID-19. How are you finding the situation and what are you doing to keep yourself busy?
Do you know what? I'm probably finding it the same as everyone else. Everyone has peaks and troughs, don't they? It's been a bit of a roller coaster for us all because it's so unknown. I feel like I've lived about 8 different lives during lockdown. And I've had the odd day where it's got to me and I've been like, oh, when's this going to be over? But you quickly remember how fortunate we are to be in the position we're in. And then you go, do you know what? It's just actually allowed me to slow down a little bit in what is otherwise a fast-paced world that I'm normally in. And I've just taken it as a time for sort of self-reflection, eating a lot of food, which I do anyway. But like the big shop is a really big staple of my week now. I get very excited about it, Martin. And I live with my twin brother's a personal trainer. So he has me out in the back garden every morning at 8 a.m. Because I think he's worried about how much I do eat. And so, yeah, I've just been spending time with the family. And, you know, it's that kind of thing of it's awful that so many people have been affected by it and we can't take that away. But we know that the current climate that we're in will pass one day. You know, we will move on from this.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned there that obviously the fast-paced life that you're involved in. Can you just give our listeners a little bit of an insight into what it is you currently do and the roles that you do have?
I don't really know, to be honest. I seem to be doing 10 million different things. So I work at BBC Radio 5 Live. I do the football phone-in, 6:06 with Robbie Savage on a Sunday evening. I work for LUTV, Leeds United TV. So whenever there's a home game, I'm over there doing sort of pre-match, half-time, post-match analysis with a pundit. I work for William Hill doing sort of like their in-house kind of videos. I do work for an Indonesian TV company traveling around Premier League grounds and just sort of interviewing ex-players and players at the end of the game or managers or whoever. I do a podcast, a netball podcast weekly called Netball Nation. I've lost track of all the stuff that I do. I'm going to be honest, Martin. I've been unemployed for that long now. I can't remember anything else.
Well, yeah, it seems like you were pretty busy, and obviously then this is just a nice time to sit back. And I know we were speaking off air of just to see what life's about and what are the things that we need in life. So yeah. Again, it seems like a very rewarding yet challenging journey to get where you are, and obviously the roles are still quite demanding. When was it you sort of decided you wanted to get into journalism?
So I've always been interested in people. I've always been fascinated by stories and what builds people, what makes people that they are, who they are, sorry. And I've always liked to chat. I don't know if you can tell. And so when I found out that you could combine these things and get into journalism, specifically broadcast journalism, that excited me because the idea of getting paid to do what I love is like, wow. So I realised that at a young age. I was probably about 12, 13. And I remember my mum saying, because I used to enjoy writing a lot as well, and I remember my mum saying, you'd make a good journalist, because I'm nosy, but in a way of like, because I care, if that makes sense. I probably ask so many questions, but I just, weirdly or not, I care about people I don't know, so I probably ask far more intrusive questions than I should. And my mum clearly picked up on this and was like, you should be a journalist. But yeah, it's the talking bit and getting to hear people's stories that I enjoy the most. So about 18 years ago, I realised.
Yeah, it's interesting there that you mentioned, I came across a quote from the Staff Uni website of you saying that you were really nosy and always been that way. And at school, you were told that if you studied as much as you talked, you would get somewhere. So the idea of that journalism suited you, and it was a dream.
Yeah. Little did I know when I was getting told off in my English class that actually I'd be all right one day.
I mean, did that ever stick with you as motivation to succeed in the industry?
I don't know. I think it wasn't that so much. It's more, I think if you find something you're passionate about and you have a drive within you, you don't give up. And it's not to prove anyone else wrong, it's to prove yourself right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. I think that was my driving force.
I'm just gonna take a note there and have that as the quote, because I like that a lot. Then you obviously from Nantwich you attended Sheffield Hallam University and studied the degree in journalism. How was uni? And obviously I'm speaking from, I never went to university and studied, so how was that, and was there any work experience alongside your studies at the time?
I never went to university and studied. I had a good time. No, I did go to university and I did study for part of it, but I had a great time, i.e. went out a lot, and yeah, I enjoyed myself. I did, I went to Sheffield Hallam initially, did a journalism degree, enjoyed myself a lot. I got a 2-1 and I don't know how, I genuinely don't know how. And that I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. If you go into uni, enjoy yourself, but maybe not as much as I did. And then did a master's in broadcast journalism, obviously over at Staffordshire University. And with that, I mean, to even get on the MA broadcast course, you had to have a level of work experience. So once I left uni and I realised that there was no student loan coming in anymore and I'd have to actually start paying it back, I was like, I better do some work. So I worked in a call centre to get some money together, and I also at the same time was working at the local newspaper, volunteering there. Hospital radio on a Saturday, community radio. I was basically doing whatever I could to build up a portfolio of work that would allow me to be accepted onto the course that I wanted to be on. Then when I got to the masters, part of the course was to do a load of work experience. That was like an essential part of it. So I went over to Channel 5 News in London, did work experience there. Went over to Q103, which is now the Hits Radio over in Manchester. I did work experience there, and yeah, just built up sort of a little portfolio of work during that time.
I mean, I just want to come back just before the master's degree. You mentioned that you worked in a call centre. Was that more of a means to an end? And was there ever a point? I mean, I spoke to somebody else not long ago who they took a job as a waiter, and there was times where they thought, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? Was there any frustration whilst doing that job?
I loved that job. I'll be honest. I loved it. Probably not the job, but the people. And I went there. I was working. I knew I needed a job. I didn't expect that I'd enjoy it as much as I did, and I was rubbish at it. But I just really liked the people. I used to walk around, we had these headsets, and I used to just walk around. I'd get up. This is really naughty, by the way. I wasn't supposed to do this. I'd just get up, put myself on, like, there was a thing you could press that people couldn't come through to you. And I'd just go and get people to play hangman with me. I'd be like, come on, let's have a game. And they said to me, they were like, Emma, are you going to leave or are you going to get sacked? So I left. But I knew, so in my mind, I'd set that I was going to work there for a year. And I was just going to save some money, get myself in a bit better situation financially. But you know what? I am of the mindset that I'm very lucky to have followed and pursued my passion and be working in it. But I honestly believe I would have still been happy if I was doing that, because I was around good people and I really enjoyed just being in that environment, just around people having a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you mentioned that obviously whilst you were at uni, you were doing a lot of volunteering. How important would you say that volunteering is for any industry, not just, broadcast?
So important. I mean, even from the point of view of feeling a reward that you're giving something to other people. Not that I can say that my radio show was giving a lot to other people, to be fair. I think more people left hospital at that time when I came on in the morning. Can't listen to this. But it is, you call it free work, you call it whatever you want, but it isn't, because what you are doing is you are building up to get yourself into a position where you can be paid to do the thing you love. So it's about the long-term gain, and it's worth doing that. And also it's a good volunteer work. It's great because it gets you socializing with people, you find new groups of friends, you're mixing with people of all ages. So on a very basic level, it's a great thing anyway, no matter what industry you're in. But as well, for me, it was a great place to be rubbish. Like, I was awful, but it didn't really matter because, you know, Barbara on Ward 5, you know, well, she couldn't leave anyway. She was stuck with listening to me in the hospital, wasn't she? So it was like, it was a really, really, I'd recommend it as a really good sort of grounding for anyone getting into an industry.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. The time at Staff's Uni, we've mentioned there at Sheffield Hallam, you went to enjoy yourself. How did you find the course at Staff's Uni? Was there a bit more focus of, right, come on, I've got to knuckle down, or?
That was hard work.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, right, this is real life then now, is it? Yeah, it was tough, but it was because it was tough love. So I knew that my lecturers were invested in me and my career and me as a person. I felt that from them. So with that comes this feeling that you almost don't want to let them down. You want to achieve for yourself and for them, because I used to think, well, you're putting so much time and effort and energy into me that you deserve the reward as much as I do. And I still have really great relationships with them. So one of them is still a lecturer, and I went back and was like a guest lecturer for him. And I keep in touch with quite a few of them because I feel as though, you know, they're good people, and they gave me such a great sort of understanding of the real broadcast journalism world that I want to keep in touch with them. I want to still know them, and it's always nice when they say that they're proud of me or something, because I feel as though, you know, the hard work, the tears, the stress, it was all worth it. But yeah, it was tough, but in the best way. Like, as you'll know from what you've done, because you know you've done a lot of great things yourself. It's the most difficult things often that bring you the greatest reward, isn't it? It's the things that you find tough that you go, I did that afterwards.
Just that, yeah, that satisfaction of saying I can do it, and
Yeah.
the mental strength. Yeah,
yeah.
It's brilliant. I mean, the work experience placements you mentioned at Channel 5 in London and Key 103 in Manchester, that was a lot of travelling for when you were studying in Staffordshire. How did you find that? And just around those placements, what responsibilities were you, did you have within those?
Well, yeah, I think that was the time that I realised I was never going to have a full tank of fuel, except for now. My fuel tank's never been as full as it's been for the last 2 months. I'm like, will you just go down? What is going on? What does the petrol station look like? I was all over the place. So my brother actually lived in London, my older brother, for a while. So I went and stayed with him, which was good because obviously it's a very expensive place and I had no money. So when I was over at Channel 5, I was doing everything. You know, you just do. You want to get stuck in, and they actually employed me after that as a freelancer assistant news editor over in the north. So anything that happened, they'd send me over there. I would interview the subject on the other side of the camera rather than being on camera. And I would just send that back over to them so that they could make a package out of it. Over at Key 103, again, I did everything from jingles to the news, to the travel, to making brews. Whatever needed to be done, I did it, and I wanted to do it because you're enthusiastic. But it's travel is a huge part of my life. I spend a lot of my time on the road. I recently did my tax return, which is really early for me, well done me, and I realized how much coffee I drink at service stations, and I was like, wow, like this is a problem. But it's also, you know, I love it. You know, I actually really like the fact that no 2 days are the same. You get to see different places, and I learned that at that time in my life. So yeah, basically, travel is a huge part of it, but you embrace it because you love what you do.
Yeah, again, they must be the hardships that people don't see in terms of the success that you've had, and just another quote from yourself, that you found it difficult sort of to report the hard news and realise the job in presenting would be your thing. Is that the side that people don't see? And was it vital for you to experience that to understand where you wanted to go?
I mean, I think it's always good to experience stuff, whether it makes you realise you want to do it or you don't, because you can cancel something out. You can go, do you know what? I tried that. I didn't like it. Not for me. And that was definitely hard news for me. It wasn't my thing. I'm too emotional about stuff happening to people. You know, I don't want to it felt wrong to me to invade the space of people when they'd had a loss or something. It wasn't me. It didn't sit right with me. It never did. What I wanted to do was learn about people in a way that they felt comfortable, you know, in a far more organic and nice way, because that's what we all want to do, isn't it? Nobody wants to feel that they're forcing themselves upon people. So yeah, that was definitely that whole having to go and work in hard news for a short period. I cut that very short because I just didn't like it. That was a big learning curve.
And again, would you say it was vital for you to experience that, to just understand where you wanted to go?
Yeah, probably. But then I also think there's other areas of radio and television that I haven't experienced and I may experience, but I think I knew it was going to be the presenting side rather than anything else that was going to be far up my street.
Yeah. I mean, from that, your next role sort of came presenting traffic and travel reports before working for Viking FM and Hull, more travelling. How hard was it to get a role in the industry that you'd chosen? Was there a lot of disappointment, rejection?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I've had so many rejections, but I also think that particularly initially when you're starting out, they're great because it allows you to get feedback, and it gives you a foundation on which you can get a thickness of your skin. You know, you realise things aren't just going to fall at your feet. You're going to really have to graft and get lucky sometimes. Right place, right time. That first gig doing the traffic and travel, I was doing that. I was there at like 6:20 in the morning. Yeah, until like 9:30. Then I'd go back in the afternoon to the evening. So I was doing breakfast and drive, and it was, for me, I was like, wow, I've got my first full-time job in radio. This is amazing. I don't know how I survived on the money I was on because it was so little, but I did somehow. And then, I then went to the big boss and said, look, I love doing this. And they used to let me on air a little bit, but I said, I want to kind of get involved with the creative side of it a bit more. I want to be able to chat, laugh, and not just be stuck in a booth on my own, like be with someone. So they said, right, if you want to do that, you're going to have to go to Hull. I was like, right, I'll go. I'll pack my bags now and I'll go. So I did a demo and then, rocked up in Hull the night before I started on the breakfast show there. I moved into the Ibis for a month while I got my bearings. They didn't tell me I had the job. They actually said, you're going to have to move. You're going to have to be here and then we'll let you know whether you've got it. So I didn't know. I didn't rock up going, this job's mine. It was a trial run. So I'm like twiddling my thumbs in the hotel at night thinking, I really hope I do get this job because, like, you know.
Sacrifice to make, really, for something that wasn't guaranteed.
Yeah, it was. But again, when you love doing something, I think you're just prepared to do it because it's a chance. You'll do something because you'll take the chance on it being a success. And obviously, it turned out great because I got the breakfast show and I had the time of my life on that show.
I think it comes back to if you can get a job that you love, it's not really classed as a job, is it?
So true. I never ever woke up at 4:30 in the morning and went, oh, got to go to work. It was like, yes, I get to go do this.
Brilliant. What a feeling. During your time at Viking, you were then contacted by Leeds United asking who asked for an audition piece for their digital streaming service. How pleasing was that to be contacted through the good work you've done at Viking?
I mean, yeah, I was buzzing and I had a good feeling. I had this feeling, right, that something good was coming. And that might sound weird, but I had this feeling. And I remember we did the show and I said to Alex, who I was working with, Alex, just film me doing this piece to camera. And I sent it off. And obviously it was at a time in the club when there was quite a bit of change going on. Great improvements were happening. But getting the presenter on LUTV was probably not their priority. So I sent this off and then I kind of badgered until they were like, okay, come into the office and we'll have a chat. So I did. And then when I was in there, the guy who offered me the job basically said, as long as you're prepared to sacrifice your weekends, the job's yours. And I didn't hesitate. I was like, for me, that was not a sacrifice. Yeah. It was, this is amazing. I'll take it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you were then working with Leeds and Viking, and to be fair, Hull is quite a long way from home. And got to ask here, was there any times you felt homesick, and was there any times where there was temptation to just say, look, I can't do this, I need to be back home?
No, I never ever felt like this wasn't the right thing or I couldn't do it. What I did feel was I missed my grandparents. I felt a sense of guilt that I wasn't there for my grandparents as much as I had been before I moved. That was what I felt. But when I spoke to them, they'd say, you know, we're so proud of you for pursuing your dreams. Don't ever come back for us. And I know they would have been more unhappy had I given up and come home. And I was loving it. When you're loving it, the days fly, the weeks fly by, and I got home whenever I could to see my grandparents. But I understood that in order to do the job I love, you know, sacrifices have to come with that.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I asked, and you mentioned these sacrifices, is if there's anybody listening who wants to get into broadcast journalism and you know, a job opportunity comes far away from home, what sort of advice would you give them?
You know what? Everyone's got their own lives. Everyone has their own priorities. And I guess even at whatever stage you're at in your life, it depends what your priorities are. But if that's what you want to do and you're so adamant, please take it from someone who has moved all over the country to do this, and know that even if you are desperately homesick for the initial period, you will learn so much about yourself just from that. You will gain so much professionally, and you will reflect on it one day and go, I am so glad I made that decision to step outside of my comfort zone and leave what I knew and go do that.
I mean, that's great advice, because I think as well with how technology is moving forward, seeing friends and family is just obviously a call or a click away, isn't it? But, you know,
yeah. I mean, you can't replace the real thing. Like a cuddle with my nana is my favourite thing, and I miss that so much right now. So I am all for being there for your family, and that's why I touch on the circumstances, because unfortunately people's circumstances do differ, and they don't almost allow you to maybe to follow exactly what you want to do. But if you want it, you'll find a way. You will find a way of getting there, and it might not mean that you move halfway across the country or whatever, but you'll find your own way of getting there.
Yeah, and I think, look, I love a quote, and you know, it's not always about the destination. Sometimes it's the journey, and finding that journey and enjoying that journey will certainly get you closer to your destination and get you there.
Absolutely. And we're all still on that journey. I don't think the journey ever really ends, does it? You know, I don't consider that I've got to my destination. I feel like I'm still on that journey and I'm just enjoying it. And you don't even have to have a solid destination. That's half the fun.
Yeah. Just seeing where it takes you.
Yeah. Like, let's have a laugh then. Where am I going next?
We only get one go of it. And I think with the current situation, we all know how fragile life is. So yeah, I'd certainly say go and follow your dreams to anybody listening.
Yeah.
Then obviously the breakfast show role came up at Signal One, which was obviously a little bit closer to home for yourself. That must have been a no-brainer to take that up.
Honestly, I was so excited. I'd grown up listening to that station, and I walked in there, and Foxy, who I work with, he became like a brother to me. I have been so lucky with the people I've worked with. So over at Viking in Hull, I was with a guy called Alex, who became one of my best friends, and Foxy became like a brother. And when I tell you that job wasn't a job, I cannot express the enjoyment I had working on that show. I didn't necessarily want to leave, actually. It was only because I was so busy and tired that something had to give. And that was the one thing that I had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning for. But I was very emotionally attached to that, because me and Foxy, you know, we just have this great relationship where he's like a brother to me. And that, I swear to, I know I'm like really milking this, but I can't ever fully express the enjoyment. And even like the listeners on that show, I've never known anything like it. Like, they would just bang up for it, on board, getting stuck in, getting involved with whatever you wanted to do. And no day that, you know, I never left that place and thought, oh, that was rubbish, or I never had a blue Sunday. Every day was fun. I loved that show.
It's, again, it isn't a job if you can enjoy it that much. But while you were doing the work with Signal One, you were still continuing work with Leeds United TV. And again, something that I've picked up from online is that you mentioned there you probably hadn't slept for 5 years during that time period. Obviously, a lot of travelling still. The level of sacrifice, hard work, and commitment, that's surely paying off now, and it must be, during those hard times, something now to look back and go,
yeah, I do. Sometimes I look back and go, I don't know how I did that. Like, as in sleep patterns, at one point I was getting up at 4:30, I was doing a breakfast show, I was then, driving over to Leeds or getting the train to London and not getting home till midnight and then back on air the next day. And I look back and I go, God, and for about a year, I didn't see my friends, which in a lot of ways that made me sad, because I was like, God, it got to the point where I almost knew that I wouldn't be available because of my work schedule. So I'd see them going out and it was like, oh damn. But I knew that after that year was up, I was going to get to a place where I'd had more free time to do that kind of thing, to spend quality time with the people that I love, and be around them. So and do the jobs that I love. So it's all worth it. It's definitely all worth it in the end.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason for some of these chats we're having on the podcast is just to give people who want to be where you are, or fortunately I work in football, and just what advice would you give to anybody who's maybe going through the journey of long hours, lack of sleep, and all they seem to do is sacrifice their time? What advice would you say?
It can feel like you're on a treadmill, and it can feel like it's never ending, and you might get to a point where you feel like giving up, and it's normally at that point where something great happens or when things change. But you'll know, if you know within yourself that the route that you're on right now is the right one, then you're on it for a reason, and that in itself will keep you going, because you'll know that you've probably sat there and thought about, well, what if I did this, what if I did this, what if I did this, and there'll be a reason you haven't chosen to do that. There's a reason you've chosen to do what you do. And if you look within yourself and it is genuinely true to you that this is what you want to do and this is the right life for you, because life's so short, then you are leading to something that is going to be so worthwhile. Just keep that in mind.
No, and I think, I've certainly learned that through the football industry. Again, a lovely quote is that sometimes a rejection is just like an arrow being pulled back, springing onto something better. So don't always live, for anybody listening, don't always live in the here and now. Just better times will come in. And I'm sure, as we spoke off air, during this situation, better times are coming.
Yeah, that's so apt, like you say, Martin. For now, better things are always going to be brighter. There's brighter things on the horizon. I'm a firm believer in that.
Although we're not quite aware what the new normal might be, but it's going to be better than what we've lived through. And ultimately, we're living through history at the minute. So, I think that's...
It's mental. Like, we read in textbooks when we were at school about like the war. Now they're going to be reading about us in coronavirus times. It's crazy, isn't it, that?
Yeah, we've encouraged my eldest daughter to write a journal. So every day, how she was feeling. There's some days where she was really, really down, and there's other days where she's loved it because she's got to spend time with the family, and she's had a picnic outside. So it's finding those right moments.
Yeah.
For yourself then, Emma, obviously you've had more recent roles with Q Live, Squawker, BBC, William Hill, all the others that we mentioned there. Has life slowed down a bit on your journey, or are you still working as hard as ever?
Right now it's slowed down, but no, it's really not slowed down, I'm going to be honest. But I am, again, because the challenges that I face seem to be ever new. So since leaving the breakfast show, for example, in the space of a year, my whole workload has been updated again. So it kind of feels like, and I'm loving it. Like, I absolutely, again, I know I bang on about it, but I love what I do. I love the variety. I've got a much better balance now in as much as I'm getting sleep. But I'm also the kind of person that I love what I do. So I don't, this time has been nice to be with my family and to reflect on a lot of things. And I think sometimes it's important that you take a step back, check that you're on track and get yourself back onto it. But, that dream of being paid to just meet people, hear their stories, laugh with them and enjoy it, how could I possibly say that I'm slowing down from that or that I'd want to?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Just obviously you're saying life hasn't really slowed down a little bit for you. Then just as an insight, what does the average week look like for you, Emma?
Okay, the average week looks like driving all over the country. I'll spend what my work is all over the place, so I'll get a call basically saying, for example, for the Indonesian TV company, that could be at any Premier League ground. A lot of my work is over the weekend. I'm on air at Leeds United on a Saturday, or if there's any midweek games then as well. I'm on air at the BBC on a Sunday night, and then I'll go and do my podcasts or my other bits of filming and all that kind of stuff throughout the week. But what I do now, which I didn't used to, is give myself one day off at least. I say there's one day, and that's your day. And then in that day, I go see my grandparents, sit with them for an hour or so, and just make sure that I get to do the things that we all want to do, even like, you know, wash my hair, go see a mate when we're allowed, go see my grandparents, and just have a day of like what I consider like pure simplicity of just being like with myself in my own surroundings. And I really enjoy that. And then I'm ready to go again the next day.
Like a little bit of rest and recovery, recharge batteries. Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit of a personal question here really is that, would you say you faced any difficulties in what is perceived as, or, you know, I know times are changing, but what is perceived as a male-led industry?
You mean with football?
Yes, yeah, within football and the broadcast within there.
Do you know, I've been asked this so many times, right? And I think that it is, in any industry that you're in, people, male or female, face challenges, regardless of the sex, or, you know, they might face challenges because they're a male or because they're a female. But the overwhelming majority of what I have faced has been positive. It's been people wanting to help me. It's been people saying to me, because there are stereotypes in this world, and you're right, it is a male-dominated environment, but what I always think of when I think about it is the people that have come forward and said to me, like, we're rooting for you here. We see talent in you, and we are rooting for you. And nobody goes through any walk of life in any job without facing any challenges. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I believe enough in myself as a broadcaster to be okay with any challenges that I'm met with, as a female, as a person, whatever. But the kindness and the belief of people in me, and these are people who I know, so I trust and respect them, that is what shines through for me in this industry.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear. I mean, because, you know, I've had other guests on who are female, working in the football world through officiating, and they've said it has been a bit of a struggle, but, you know, it's ever changing, and look, we're becoming a lot more, I'm not going to say accepting because that's the wrong word, but it's not about who you are, it's how good you are at what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, go on, Martin.
Sorry, I was just saying that will always shine through, won't it? You know, your passion and your drive.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the work as a presenter, the sort of downside, you mentioned obviously the hard news stuff. Do you ever get negative comments with you being out in the public eye a lot, or trolls to contend with?
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets comments that they don't want. And again, I bring it back down to, you know, with social media and stuff, for me, it allows me to put myself out there and be myself. Don't get me wrong, I always believe in keeping sort of a bit back for yourself. People don't need to know everything about you. You know, you're allowed to keep a little bit of you to yourself. But I love people, and part of what I do is meeting people. So for me, that's an extension of that. And with that, you have to accept that not everyone's going to like you, just like in the real world, and that's okay. I am at ease with the fact that I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But what am I going to do about that? because whether I was on social media or not, I wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. If someone said something to me in the street, I would, it's kind of like you've got to react in the same way. And I am very close to my family and friends, very, very close. And I trust, respect and value their opinions of me. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm not upsetting them or other people, as long as I'm not intending to hurt anyone, then I can lock away any negativity online in a little place in my mind and know that it doesn't matter to me. And I think when I first started out in this industry, it did. I was affected by it. If I got the odd comment, I'd be upset by that. Whereas now, I think you gain, like I say, that thick skin, the confidence, and almost, what do I expect? Should I expect everyone to like me? Who do I think I am to expect everyone to like me? Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I'm not condoning trolling, because some of the stuff I've seen targeted at other people is repulsive, and I think that should be policed in some way if it can be. But me personally, I'm not sensitive enough to that kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, a lovely little quote I've seen is that you're never going to get anywhere in life if you stop and throw sticks at every dog that barks.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, some of it can be constructive feedback. I understand that, but with the nature of sort of online content at the minute, I don't know if you've seen this stuff with Ian Wright, who's been exposed to some absolutely vulgar stuff at the minute, and that clearly isn't acceptable. And someone as big as Ian Wright, it just gets to them. Of
course it does. And actually, I think, and that is where I say I don't condone trolling. I think that is disgusting. And I think, that would get to anybody, wouldn't it? I know that would get to me. And actually, it's people like Ian Wright who can then use that to pave the way and make people aware of what is still going on in this world that is wrong, and get more people on board with seeing it and having a clearer message out there that, this isn't okay, right? You can't just go around doing this.
Yeah, I don't know when it ever became acceptable, or someone could sit behind the keyboard and think it was the right thing to do. But I think the less we speak about these people, the better, really.
I agree.
You've had the chance to work with some big names. Do you get a little bit starstruck at times?
No, am I weird? Because my mates say this, and we've been in places or whatever, say me and a few of my mates, and they're like, oh my God, no idea. Like half the time, if it's like, I don't know, a singer or something, I'm not very good at even knowing who they are. So no, I don't get starstruck. And that probably comes back to the thing of I just like people. I got into doing what I do, not to be starstruck, not to meet famous people, to meet people like me, just normal people. And I have always said, those are the stories that are my favourite. When I was on the radio, we might be doing a show for 4 hours and then recording an interview with a celebrity. And if the absolute truth be told, I didn't care whether we were recording an interview with a celebrity or not. It was the 4 hours of who's going to ring and who, it was like Steve in his van driving to drop oatcakes off that, had a funny story to tell us. That's the stuff that I like. I am so interested in those people. I'm not saying I'm not interested in celebrities, because they're all people, but I am no more interested in them than I am everyone else.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say you're strange, but I've got to say our first podcast was with Rory Delap, a Stoke City and footballing legend, and I was sat pinching myself through the first podcast, thinking, wow,
Right, I've got one confession. Eddie Gray. When I first met Eddie Gray, that was, and I wouldn't call it starstruck so much as just nervous, because I was in awe of what he'd done, and nervous that, because when these people have had such successful careers and they're like legends, you hope that they're going to be lovely. And he was, in the very first moment, he made me feel at ease. But yeah, in awe, I would say, of Eddie when I first met him.
No worries. So what does the future hold for you after this lockdown period then, Emma? Do you know, or is it just a case of wait and see?
Well, yeah, I better get back out there and earn some money, haven't I, eh? This camper van's not going to run itself. But, like, I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and get back into the flow of it, because I think this lockdown has probably taught a lot of us that we're all guilty of always looking to the future. And what happened to just enjoying the present? What happened? Like, my God, I wake up every day and pinch myself that I get to do what I love. So I am all for, having a rough plan. And that is that I want to stay in this industry and keep building. And I used to set like a 5-year plan. In a year, it had changed because there'd been new opportunities and I'd be throwing myself into them and absolutely loving it. So I believe as well that if you focus on the present and you enjoy that, you're going to be better equipped for the future, because you're going to be learning and be grateful for where you are, and that sets you up, rather than always going, what's this leading to, what next? I don't have to do that, because stuff will come next, I'm sure of it, but I'm just so lucky and I'm so happy and enjoying the present and where I'm at now.
I love that. No, I love that. Just for us to finish off, I'm conscious, obviously we've taken up quite a bit of your time, and
I've got nothing to do, Martin. I'm fine.
Go back in the house, your brother might get another PT session out. So we usually do a quick fire question round, based usually around football. So I have titivated it a bit.
Okay.
Tried to allude it to your industry. So best moment in your career to date?
Being at Ellen Road for the international friendly England-Costa Rica, because it was like welcoming people into my home. I was like, welcome everyone, look where I work. It was amazing.
Brilliant. Best friend in the industry?
Someone that you won't know. It's one of my bosses. I've got about 12 bosses, and one of them in particular pushes me, encourages me, and has become one of my best friends.
Okay. Biggest lesson learned?
Don't force yourself to do something that absolutely doesn't feel right. So, for example, the hard news thing, it was a lesson learned, but don't carry on doing something just because you've done it. Know when to stop and go, no, I've realised that's not for me. And know that whatever you're destined to do, whatever feels right for you, that will find its way. You will find your way there.
Great stuff. Describe yourself in 3 words.
God. Very bloody annoying. How's that? No, I would say I'm happy. I'm content, and I am mostly hungry a lot of the time.
What's been your biggest wow moment? I think you might have alluded to it.
But... yeah, I mean, that thing that working for the FA at Ellen Road, that night was amazing, but also the first time sitting in the driving seat of the BBC, about to go live to 1 million listeners, I was like, wow, they're letting me do this. This is amazing. P.S. Don't swear, Emma.
Can I just add to that? A gent that we spoke to who worked for a local football club said that, I asked the advice, what would you say to anybody who's going to go and present? And he said that he just imagined he was speaking to his nan.
Yeah, it's so true. That it is so true. Just imagine it's you and one other person in that room, and you're just having a chat with them. You just, and that is kind of the beauty of what I do, actually, because it is a phone in. It's one-on-one. You are genuinely speaking to one other person, and I think that is a great way to look at it. Yeah, just imagine I'm chatting to my nana.
It really threw me back, because he interviewed Robbie Williams, and I was like, wow, how did you feel? He says, just speaking to me nan, and I still can't get it out of my head. No,
but it's great advice, that. I like that.
Is there anybody you'd recommend or like to hear on the podcast?
I don't know, I haven't even thought about that. If you got lined up, and I'll say them, and then it sounds like you've done really well then, doesn't
it? We've got a variation from, obviously, across football within different aspects of the industry, from media to refereeing to coaching to managing, just anybody that might, psychological stuff as well, really.
Can you get my mate Robbie Savage on and ask him to tell me what shampoo he uses, please? Because his hair's looking a lot better than mine in lockdown.
When we publish this, what I'll do is I'll add him into the quote and say, what who does Robbie Savage wear? And hopefully he might get himself interested in getting his own back. Look, Emma, I've really enjoyed the chat today. It's been great to sort of get an insight into what you do in the industry you work in. Thank you. And again, if there's any listeners out there looking to forge a career in the industry, I'm sure there's going to be some absolute nuggets in that for them to be inspired by. So,
well, thank you for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure. Look, everyone at PCT wish that you stay safe and well, and wish you and the family have, all the success moving forward.
Oh, thank you very much, and you stay safe as well. And one day, when we've adjusted to new normal, I might meet you in real life rather than from a camper van. No, thank you, Martin. Stay safe, won't you?
And you. Speak soon. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Our good friends over at Potteries Table Football Club are a new club coming to Stoke-on-Trent soon, bringing you all things table football. If you want to know more, head over to the social media at Potteries TFC. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.